It was meant to be a simple road trip, just me and my best friend Sarah. We had planned it for months, a weekend getaway to a remote cabin by the mountains. It was late September, the trees just starting to change color, and we thought the drive would be peaceful. The road was long and winding, and the silence between us was comforting at first. We were getting away from the hustle and bustle of life, but then something shifted. We had been driving for hours, and it was well past midnight. The highway was empty with no cars in sight for miles. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional crackling of the radio. Sarah had fallen asleep in the passenger seat, and I had just finished a playlist I had put together for the trip. It was pitch black outside, and all I could see were the faint outlines of trees and hills under the full moon. Suddenly, my headlights flickered, and the radio sputtered out a burst of static. I thought it was just a glitch, so I brushed it off, but then the lights dimmed again, and the car made a strange noise, a kind of rattling. I slammed my foot on the brake, pulling over to the side of the road. I woke Sarah with a jolt. "Sarah, wake up! Something's wrong with the car." She groggily sat up, rubbing her eyes. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," I said, getting out of the car and popping the hood. It was dark, the air was still, and the only sound was the crunch of gravel beneath my boots. I leaned over the engine, scanning for any issues, but everything looked fine. The rattling had stopped. Confused, I closed the hood and got back in. I started the engine again, hoping it was just a temporary glitch, but as I began driving, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The road ahead seemed to stretch on forever. No sign of any civilization, no streetlights, nothing. That's when I saw it. A faint glow in the distance, like headlights, but they didn't seem to be moving. I thought maybe it was a truck parked up ahead, so I decided to take a detour, hoping it would lead me to a gas station, somewhere I could stop. We turned onto a narrow dirt road, the headlights illuminating the gravel path as it twisted deeper into the woods. The glow ahead grew brighter as we neared. I could make out the shape of an old rundown shack. There was a vehicle parked outside, an old van, rusted and falling apart. "Are you sure we should stop?" Sarah asked, her voice filled with unease. "This feels weird." "We'll just ask for directions," I replied, trying to sound calm, but even I could feel my heartbeat quickening. I pulled up in front of the shack and stopped. The place was silent, the glow coming from a single dim bulb hanging above the door. I looked at Sarah, who was already clutching her phone in her hands. "Stay here. I'll be right back." She hesitated but nodded, locking the doors as I stepped out of the car. The air was cold and the crunch of my footsteps was loud in the stillness. I approached the shack, my breath visible in the moonlight. As I got closer, the door creaked open and a man stepped out. He was tall with unkempt hair and a dirty flannel shirt. His eyes were wide, almost unnaturally so, and he had a strange, unsettling smile on his face. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice raspy, like he hadn't spoken in years. Yeah, my car broke down back there. Is there a gas station nearby?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He stared at me for a long time before answering. "You took a wrong turn. You shouldn't be out here. It's not safe." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What do you mean? Is there something wrong with this road?" The man stepped closer, his smile growing wider. "It's not the road you need to worry about. It's what's waiting for you on it." I was about to ask him what he meant when I heard a noise behind me. I turned quickly, my heart pounding. In the distance, barely visible under the trees, was the faint shape of a person moving slowly along the road. It was too far to make out any details, but it was clearly a person, and they were coming closer. The man behind me chuckled. "You should go, before it's too late." My instinct screamed at me to get back to the car. I turned and sprinted back to the road, But as I reached the car, I felt a sharp pain in my leg. I stumbled and looked down to see blood dripping from a gash in my calf, like I had been scraped by something. I reached the driver's side door, yanked it open, and jumped in. "Go, go!" I shouted at Sarah, who looked horrified. I started the car, slamming the gas pedal. We sped off, my eyes darting between the rearview mirror and the dark road ahead. The figure I had seen earlier was now closer, but as I turned onto the main highway, I lost sight of it. We drove in silence for the next half hour, the air thick with tension. But when I glanced at the GPS, my blood ran cold. The map didn't show the detour I had taken. It was as if the road had never existed. This happened when I was 22, back in 2019. I had just finished college and was moving across the country for a new job, Phoenix to Seattle. I decided to make it a solo road trip, a kind of symbolic transition from one life chapter to the next. My plan was simple: 3 days of driving with cheap motels and fast food. I was used to solo travel and felt confident. I had pepper spray, roadside assistance, and I was careful about keeping my doors locked. The first 2 days were uneventful: hot desert, long highways, too many energy drinks. I was about halfway through Oregon by day 3, and I remember thinking, this part of the country is beautiful, but damn, it's empty. That third afternoon, somewhere outside of Burns, I stopped at a small gas station. It was one of those run-down places with a broken sign, a single pump, and a flickering open light in the window. I was running low on fuel, and it was the only place for miles. Inside, there was an older man behind the counter, a rack of stale snacks, and a young guy in a gray hoodie, maybe late 20s, browsing the coolers. I barely looked at him, just nodded, paid for gas, grabbed a bottled coffee, and went back out. When I got to the pump, I noticed the guy in the hoodie had come out too. He wasn't getting gas. He just lit a cigarette and leaned against the wall, staring at me in a way that made me uncomfortable. Not overtly threatening, but lingering, watching. I kept my eyes down, finished filling up, got back in the car. As I was pulling out, I glanced in the mirror and saw him walking back inside. Whatever, I thought, just some creep. I'd be out of the area in 5 minutes. I was wrong. About 30 minutes later, I saw a car behind me. Old red SUV. Looked like a Jeep, maybe a Grand Cherokee. It wasn't tailgating or flashing its lights, but something about how it stayed exactly 4 car lengths back started to get to me. No matter how fast or slow I went, it stayed right there, like it was tethered. After about 15 minutes of that, I started getting paranoid. I took the next random turn I saw, a county road that curved through a forested area. Narrow 2-lane, no cell service. I thought I'd lose them, but a minute later, the red SUV turned in 2. That's when I knew. I was being followed. I sped up, heart pounding. No other cars, just me and whoever was behind me, tucked just out of reach. I took another sharp left onto a gravel path. It looked like it led to a trailhead or a logging route. I figured if they kept following, I'd double back fast or hide. But the SUV didn't follow this time. I exhaled, trying to calm down. Waited 5 minutes. Nothing. I turned around and got back on the highway. Another 15 minutes passed. I was starting to think I'd imagined the whole thing. Then I saw it. The red SUV, parked on the shoulder, engine off. Just sitting there, like it had waited for me to circle back. I didn't stop. I drove past, trying not to look. But I saw the driver clearly. Same guy from the gas station, the one in the gray hoodie. This time he was smiling, not friendly, not amused. It was that weird kind of smile people make when they know something you don't. I didn't even try to play it cool. I floored it. For the next hour, I drove like I was in a chase scene. I turned at random junctions, blew through a yellow light, took an off-ramp into a town called John Day, and parked in a grocery store lot surrounded by people. I stayed there for over 2 hours, never saw the SUV again. Finally, I decided to check into a motel. It was small, quiet, seemed safe. I paid cash and didn't give my name, but something still felt off. I didn't even want to sleep. I pulled a chair in front of the door, kept the TV on low, and made sure my phone was charged. Around 2 a.m., I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate ones, just outside the door. I muted the TV. The steps stopped directly in front of my room. No knock, no sound, just waiting. Then I saw the shadow under the door. Someone was standing there. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then finally the steps moved on. I heard a door creak open down the hall, and then silence again. I didn't sleep at all. At sunrise, I packed up and left. On my way out, I asked the front desk clerk, an older woman, if anyone else had checked in late last night. She looked at the logbook and said yes. Just one. Red Jeep. Guy paid in cash. Didn't give a name. He had taken the room 2 doors down from mine. I filed a report with state police when I got to Washington. Showed them security cam footage from the grocery store where I'd parked. The SUV was there, circling slowly through the lot about 10 minutes after I arrived. They never found him. No plates on file. No arrests made. This happened last summer. I was driving solo from Colorado to Nevada after visiting my sister in Denver. I had just gotten out of a rough breakup and needed space, so I planned a few extra days off work and decided to take the scenic route. Avoid the interstates, take the long roads through Utah and eastern Nevada. There's something about empty highways and long stretches of nothing that's always cleared my head. By day 2, I was winding through the high desert of central Utah. Vast, empty land. A 2-lane road that disappeared over the horizon, surrounded by scrub brush and distant mesas. There were hours where I didn't see another car. I had a few downloaded podcasts, a cooler of energy drinks, and a full tank of gas. It was around 7:30 p.m. when I saw the first car. It was pulled off to the right shoulder, maybe 100 yards ahead. The hood was popped, hazards flashing. A man stood outside, waving one hand in slow, deliberate arcs. Classic distress signal. I started to slow instinctively, but something stopped me. He didn't look distressed. He was standing still, not fumbling with tools or a phone, just waiting, watching. As I got closer, I took in more details. He looked to be mid to late 20s. Clean jeans, hoodie, sneakers, not sweaty or dirty, no backpack, no spare tire, just standing there like he expected me to stop. I kept driving, slowed a bit, didn't make eye contact. I passed him doing maybe 45. For a second, I debated turning around, but I had this bad feeling curling in my gut, like something about the whole scene was too set up. That stretch of road curved gently and had small dips, so by the time I glanced at my mirror again, the guy and his car were out of sight. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. A pair of headlights flicked on in the distance, back where he'd been parked. The car I just passed pulled back onto the road. I watched the headlights reappear in my mirror. They stayed there, not rushing, not lagging, just following. I told myself it was nothing. Coincidence. Maybe the car had just overheated and the guy got it running. But I was paying attention now, and for the next 15 minutes, every twist, every bend, I checked the mirror. He was still there, exact same distance, no attempt to pass, no falling behind. At some point, I realized he was matching my speed perfectly. Then the high beams, 3 quick flashes, office. Then a minute later, 3 more. It didn't feel like a malfunction. It felt deliberate. A signal. I felt a jolt of adrenaline and checked my phone. No signal. Of course, I started recording on the camera app, just in case something happened. I held it low, narrated what was happening, described the guy, the car, an old silver Saturn sedan with a dent in the passenger side panel. I decided to test him. I took the next left, an unmarked turnoff onto a dusty gravel service road that curved sharply downhill. It was rough. Anyone following would have to really want to stay on me. Sure enough, seconds later, the silver Saturn turned in after me. At that point, I wasn't curious anymore. I was scared. I gunned it, letting rocks and dust kick up behind me. I knew this was a risk. I could blow a tire or get stuck, but I figured better stuck in a ditch than in that guy's trunk. After maybe half a mile, I spotted a wide clearing where I could loop back onto the main road. I slid through the loose gravel, tires spinning, barely keeping control. Back on the highway, I floored it, pushed 85, then 90. I kept looking behind me. Nothing. For a moment, I thought I lost him. Then, headlights again. Far behind, but gaining. I hit 95, heart pounding. My little sedan was shaking. I was sweating through my shirt, white-knuckling the steering wheel, feeling like I was in some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Up ahead, another car, parked diagonally across part of the road, lights off, driver door open. No one in sight. My brain clicked instantly. It's a setup. The Saturn behind me, the abandoned car ahead. They were working together. I didn't hesitate. I swerved into the other lane, laid on the horn, and shot past the empty car. As I did, I saw him, another guy crouching behind the open door, like he was waiting to grab someone who stopped. He looked up as I passed, his eyes reflecting in my headlights. His hands were gloved. He was holding something metal, long and thin. I didn't look back, just drove. A mile later, the Saturn caught up again. This time, he tried pulling up beside me. I could see the guy clearly now. Pale skin, long, greasy hair, no emotion on his face. He looked straight ahead like it was a normal drive. He didn't glance at me, didn't make a gesture, just tried to edge me off the road. I swerved hard, forced him back, and kept going. Then, thank God, headlights in the opposite lane. A semi-truck. As we passed each other, I flashed my brights like crazy. I laid on my horn. The truck slowed. In my mirror, I saw it pull. A wide U-turn. That spooked the Saturn. They hit the brakes and veered off onto another side road. No signal, no warning, just vanished into the desert. The truck caught up with me as I pulled off into a rest area 10 minutes later, shaking, breathing hard like I'd just run a marathon. The driver, older guy with a grizzled beard, asked if I was okay. I told him what happened. He let me use his CB to contact local authorities since there was still no cell service. A highway patrol unit met us 20 minutes later. I gave them a full report, showed them the video. They took it seriously, but I never heard anything else. Just as they were wrapping up, one of the officers ran my plates through their system. He came back frowning. "You say this is your only stop off the highway?" he asked. I nodded. He hesitated. "Your car was flagged earlier today, around 2 p.m., by a ranger's dash cam, parked off a restricted service road about 30 miles north of here. Deserted. No driver in sight." I was stunned. I'd never been there. Either someone copied my plates, or they planned on making my car disappear with me in it. To this day, I don't know who they were or what they wanted, but I do know this. If I had stopped for that man by the side of the road, I wouldn't be here telling you this story.